All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty mind-bending theory. It comes from a scientific paper way back in 1973, and it tries to answer, well, maybe the biggest question we've ever asked ourselves. It's an idea that's as elegant as it is, frankly, a little disturbing.
And that question is pretty simple, right? Where is everybody? Our universe is almost 14 billion years old. It's got hundreds of billions of galaxies, and each of those has hundreds of billions of stars. The scale is just, it's hard to even wrap your head around. And yet, when we point our telescopes out and listen, all we hear is silence.
And this right here is the heart of what we call the Fermi paradox, or the Great Silence. It's this massive contradiction between the incredibly high odds that life should exist out there and the total, absolute lack of any evidence for it. It's a real cosmic mystery, and it's been bugging scientists for decades.
So, welcome to the zoo. This is a bold idea that asks, what if the silence isn't an absence of life? What if it's a deliberate choice? See, back in 1973, one scientist came up with a fascinating and pretty unnerving explanation.
This is it, the original paper from MIT scientist John A. Ball. He looked at this great silence and came up with a solution that totally flips the problem on its head. And he called it the zoo hypothesis.
Now, here's the kicker. Ball's hypothesis doesn't argue that aliens don't exist. It argues the exact opposite, that they could be, in his words, almost ubiquitous, basically everywhere. The reason we don't see them, he suggested, is because they've intentionally put a fence around us, cordoned us off, leaving us to develop on our own, kind of like animals in a giant nature preserve.
Okay, let's look at the core assumptions here, because this wasn't just some wild guess. He built it on a logical foundation. And Ball was super clear in the paper that his whole idea only works if three core premises are all true.
And this is really key to his whole argument. He says, word for word, if any of them proves to be incorrect, then the zoo hypothesis falls. So this isn't just science fiction, it's a logical conclusion based on a very specific set of starting points.
So what are they? Well, first, life isn't magic, it's just a natural chemical process that'll happen wherever it can. Second, there are countless planets out there where those conditions are just right. And third, the one thing we actually know for sure, we are completely, totally unaware of any other intelligent life.
All right, the fates of civilizations. If we accept those premises, we get to the really big question, why? Why would an advanced civilization bother putting us in a cosmic zoo? Well, according to Ball, it has everything to do with the insane timescales of the universe.
Just think about it for a second. The universe is billions of years old. Ball argues that it's statistically, almost impossible that any civilization we'd meet would be at the same technological level as us. They'd either be millions of years behind us, maybe just figuring out fire, or, more likely, millions of years ahead of us.
And in his paper, he actually included this diagram to sketch out the different paths a civilization could take in the long run. They might destroy themselves, they could just stagnate and hit a technological wall, or they could achieve continuous development, getting more and more advanced over millions or even billions of years.
This leads to a really crucial point. The civilizations that blow themselves up or just stop advancing, they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The only ones who would be setting the rules for the galaxy are the ones who survived and just kept going. They would be, as he puts it, in some sense in control of the universe.
So, what would a civilization that's basically in charge of everything do with a young, developing species like us? This is where Ball offers this really chilling analogy. The perfect zoo, the perfect nature preserve is one where the animals inside don't even know they're being watched.
So let's talk about this unsettling possibility. Because all of this builds to the hypothesis' powerful and, deeply unnerving final prediction about where we stand in the cosmos.
The prediction is just stark. If the zoo hypothesis is correct, we will never find them. Not because they aren't there, but because the civilization that's millions of years ahead of us would have the technology to stay completely hidden. Their observation would be perfect and totally undetectable to us.
And what's really fascinating is that John Ball himself, he wasn't exactly thrilled with his own idea. He actually admits in the paper's conclusion that he finds the whole hypothesis pessimistic and psychologically unpleasant. I mean, it's definitely not the epic first contact story most of us were hoping for.
But then he hits you with this final brilliant counterpoint. Just because an idea makes us uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong.
Science, after all, isn't about what makes us feel good. It's about what best explains the evidence. And the evidence, so far, is just a great cosmic silence.
Which really leaves us with this one provocative thought. Is the silence we hear in the stars not a sign that we're alone, but a sign that we're being watched? Are we the protected inhabitants of some vast cosmic wilderness preserve, totally unaware of the keepers looking in from outside the enclosure? The question remains,